Today is October 3rd, 2022, and the time is 11 a.m. I'd like to thank everybody for joining us today here with the Chaffey College for the strategies for job search success. We're going to be going over a really awesome webinar and talk about some of the different job search successes that we have out there, some strategies to really just maximize your ability to get that employment. So let me take a moment to talk a little bit about what we're going to do today. This is being recorded, so we do ask that you respect everyone and be respectful as we're using the chat to drop information in towards you. And we ask that you use the question and answers so that way we can track your questions, answer them during the course of the topics, and then circle around at the end of the presentation and go back and make sure that all those questions get answered. And as I said before, my teammate's going to be putting a lot of information into the chat. So we ask that you kind of leave that feature open for that passing back and forth of information. We're going to talk about state employment. We're going to talk about federal employment. And then we have Ben here today, who's a local interagency network coordinator, to talk about how they really work with everybody to get that success. So my name is Sean Campbell, and I work with the California Transition Assistance team. And our whole role is just to make sure that we're informing and connecting veterans of all eras to their earned and state benefits. I did some time in the Navy, and I had a really great experience. And I found that the Department of Veteran Affairs of California is here to support and really give you that assistance throughout your whole experience, because we recognize that your needs change over time. And we've identified what they call 5 pathways as we move you through those moments that matter, whether it be the core curriculum that we work with, if you have educational questions, employment opportunities like what we're talking about today, if you want to build your own business and take that bold leap forward and do entrepreneurship. And we also spend a lot of time talking about the different service providers that are out there to assist you throughout your various needs. When you are talking to us at the California Department of Veteran Affairs, we do ask that you give us a non-DoD email address, so that way we can continue to work with you throughout time. Take that moment to register for My CalVet on our homepage, so that way we can cater some personalized benefits to your needs. And there's a lot of different webinars that we try to provide for you. So when you see the survey links or the surveys come up, we do ask that you take that moment to really give us some honest feedback about the surveys, so we can build and engineer the webinars that are going to most meet your needs and answer the questions that you may have coming up. I mentioned this a little bit before. I want to touch back on it again. There are 5 different pathways that we've really identified to help you at the California Transition Assistance Program, the team that we have. And it gives you just 24/7 access towards the different videos and learning platforms to guide you through those pathways, whether it be employment, education. And this is our landing page here that you can see, and in the upper right-hand corner, if you wanted to register with My CalVet, it gives you that opportunity as well. Clicking on any of these pathways will navigate you through the different areas that we have. Some of the California specific benefits that we like to talk about are the college tuition fee waiver. If you have a disability rating of 0% or higher, it just allows your dependents to really navigate through the educational system with any of the California-based schools, the California state schools, and have those fees waived. There's a veteran designation driver's license program, so you can get that iconography that you've earned on your driver's license to designate you as a veteran, or a California ID card. Motor vehicle registration fee waiver. If you have a disability that's mobility related and you have that eligibility, the DMV will remove and waive fees for one of your registered vehicles, as well as if you have the eligibility and the disability rating, there's reduced hunting and fishing licenses. There's no cost state parks passes, and there's a wide variety of other tax exemptions that you may be eligible for. So we really encourage you to explore those avenues and check out the benefits that you've earned. In our building, the California Department of Veteran Affairs, we have a home loans division, so you can really explore that California dream of owning a home. There's a women's division and a minority division where they do a lot of outreach and really do represent that underserviced population of veterans. Go out there and inform and connect with them. There's long-term care facilities, and there's CalVet cemeteries when you want to explore what your legacy is going to look like. If you've got specific questions, we have the veteran resource book. My teammate's going to drop a link to that in the chat feature. This is what we like to refer to as a bucket of benefits. There's a huge variety of information here. I really encourage you to take that moment, download it, explore it, read it, hit that Control F feature and find what you're looking for in that book. It's huge with a lot of good information to help navigate you through the benefits that you've earned. This is our monthly newsletter. It gives you an opportunity to see some videos and webinars that are coming up. We like to spotlight on different issues each month. And you can see that by exploring the newsletter, you can really connect with the veteran services from the state of California and answering a lot of questions you may have. Or if you're looking for services or looking for more information, we're just here to help navigate you through that. If you are using va.gov, excellent website. Now they've got an app for it, which they released a couple months ago. Accessing and managing your VA benefits and healthcare at the palm of your fingertips and being able to do it in your hand really improves your outcomes. Take a moment, make sure you're using these tools that are out there to help you. They're phenomenal. This is my contact information. Again, my name is Sean Campbell, and I work with the California Department of Veteran Affairs. When you call that phone number, you're gonna have a live human being that's gonna answer that phone and help you out and help you walk through whatever questions or help you navigate through the benefits that you've earned. Speaking of which, next up is Ben. Hello, Ben. How you doing today?
Good, sir. How are you, Sean? Thank you,
I'm
sir.
excellent. Thank you. Thank you for joining us today. It really means a lot to me.
No, pleasure, sir. Always pleasure to be with you. Yeah, so we got another name on the screen, but it's all good. We had a little bit of musical chairs this morning in terms of who was gonna be here today, but
I apologize for that.
it's all good. It's all good. So my name's Ben. I'm what we call a link at Calvet. And so there's a lot of different things that we do. I think the one thing I want to kind of get out there front and center for everyone watching today is that we do a lot of work to provide information about benefits and services, and then also a lot of work to directly connect veterans and their families to service providers. Okay, so our work is very much based upon local expertise in the regions that we work in. So actually we have this slide up for our Bay Area link. I'm our Orange County link. And we also have an Inland Empire link. And actually, I'm going to show you all of that on the next slide. The next slide, please. Okay, so this is our link map. So there's 8 of us. And I want to first actually draw your attention. Well, you can see me down here in orange, Ben. Actually, I have the smallest geographical region, but actually a lot of density of veterans in Orange County. And then in red, though, I want to highlight Merlin. Who covers 4 different counties there. And so, as I mentioned, what we really have is a lot of knowledge on the services that are in our regions. So say that you wanted to talk to someone about, what's the best way to connect with my local county veteran service office? We know a lot of the people that work there. Maybe you need legal services for something. We can help you identify where a legal service provider is that can help you. Maybe mental health support, whatever it is. It's a big part of our job is to have a thorough understanding of all the different service providers in our regions so that we can share the info with you about it. The next slide, please. Okay, so what do we do as links? So I've kind of touched on this. We provide outreach to service members, veterans and their families. We certainly do a lot of work by phone, email, events. I mentioned this, we make referrals and work with established service providers. We assist with local emergencies. So the California wildfires are a good example. Our team is often out at these sites helping veterans kind of reestablish themselves after fires. And then we do provide a lot of leadership and advocacy in local communities, involvement in different collaboratives to help improve how services are delivered for veterans and their families. Next slide, please. Okay. So connecting to benefits. So we have a sampling here of benefits that you can find across the state. As I mentioned, it's a lot more than this. Again, the real flavor of a link is kind of local resources. These things that may only exist in your area or may exist in a neighboring area that we can connect you to. But the kind of things that you'll see, across the state are through the EDD, Veteran-Specific Employment Services, through what are called America's Job Centers of California. You'll sometimes hear those referred to as one-stops. On the California state benefits side, county veteran service offices. So those are very important offices to know about. They're really your gateway to accessing a whole bunch of state and federal benefits. Um, and then Calvet, where we have a number of benefits that Sean mentioned. And then on the healthcare side, with the VA has their medical centers and their clinics. What they call their CBOCs, their community-based outpatient clinics. So I think most people watching are in the Inland Empire. So if Loma Linda is a little far, you can get care a little closer through a CBOC than the VA's vet centers. The next slide, please, Sean. Yeah, so here's my contact info. I'd really like to just offer and encourage anyone watching today that would like to have a conversation about really anything. If you'd like to talk about all the things that Sean mentioned, you can reach out to Sean or me about all our different state benefits, what's on the ground in your area, really whatever your need is. That's what we're used to. Since COVID hit, I've answered over 2,000 phone calls since COVID hit. We took a big part of that responsibility now for CalVet. And so we see a lot. And so I think that we've gotten pretty much about every question at this point. So feel free to reach out to if there's anything you can think of that maybe you could use help with. Okay, thanks, Sean. I think that's it for me.
Thank you so much again for joining us today, Ben. I really appreciate it.
Thank you.
So let's talk a little bit about the California employment landscape, and let's explore some of the things that are going on with California itself. If you go to our landing page and you're at the California Transition Assistance Program, you'll see the employment pathway, and it's highlighted here in this frame. So you can navigate through this, and it will bring you to the actual employment pathway, where there's a wide variety of modules that have videos and PDFs. So you can do that self-paced learning at 24/7. Provide a lot of different access about personal appraisals. How do you market yourself? What does it really mean, a job search? What is it, what is state employment? What is federal employment? Some different interviewing techniques. And this information can really change your outcomes when you're looking for employment. What does the California labor market look like? This right here is just a snapshot of what we believe is the 5 fastest growing professions for the next few years. Obviously, with the changes about all vehicles having to not be gas powered coming up in the future, there's a lot of solar things going on, statisticians, information security analysts. There's a lot of different jobs that are coming up. And exploring these is good to know where you're going to drive your, the question really becomes, what really interests you? What drives your interest? What kind of things do you want to do? Well, at the beginning, you really want to prepare. And preparing means creating that master resume. Having a master resume just sets everything right there and really gives you a good anchor point to start your search. Now, you can also have target resumes, and target resumes are going to be a little more specific for different areas that you're aiming for. You have a lot of experience from your military service, and we want to make sure that you're able to take that experience that you have and match that terminology together. So that way, current employers can understand what you're trying to say and what you're trying to translate from your military service. Keep a list of ready references and check those references. Talk to them, make sure their phone numbers work, make sure their contact informations work, make sure that they're actually going to use you as, they're going to give you a positive reference as well. Federal resumes are different from state resumes, and we have a representative here today to go over federal resumes in great detail. So I also encourage you to take that moment to find out if the company or agency offers veterans preference or veterans preference points, because a lot of organizations will do that. Make sure that you're thinking long term. If you have a higher rank when you are in the military, you may need to make more adjustments to your resume, and consider the competitiveness of your market. You may have to relocate sometimes, so you never want to leave relocation. You never want to remove that from your list of options. When you're looking for a job, especially right now, because COVID has changed so many dynamics and things, don't get discouraged. You will find your place. The job I'm working at now, I put in a lot of different applications before I could get this one. And sometimes it's going to take a lot of time because employers are looking at so many different things that have changed because of COVID, including how we interview and how we do stuff. So state employment, federal employment, I don't want to talk too much about federal employment because we have Adrian here today to go into great detail about that. But I will mention that the login.gov, that's the main place where you're going to create a profile for USA Jobs. And I also want to make sure that we touch on veterans preference points, because veterans preference points are really important. And there's a few different categories. There's 0 points, there's 5 points, there's 10 points, there's special things for Gulf War, there's Gold Star. There's so many different just so many different subsections when it comes to veterans preference points and federal resumes, that I really want to make sure that you take that moment and read how it works. Feds Hire Vets is a great website that'll explain all the different points and how they dial in, and it will also give you access to their form, so you can put in for that veterans preference at the federal level. And this is just what the form looks like, so that way you can reference it again. Some helpful resources: Department of Labor, Career One Stop, Resume Engine, Military Skills Translator, something I really recommend you take an eyeball at and look to help you navigate and translate your military job skills into the current workforce, and you making sure that you're adding all of the things that you've learned and all the skills that you've been able to master and accomplish. So let me talk about state employment. State employment means working with the state of California. The state of California is the largest employer in the state of California, which almost sounds funny to say, but there's over 150 agencies and state departments. There's multiple geographic locations you can work, every place from San Diego all the way down south to all the way up north. And there's a lot of career opportunities. Working for the state offers stability. The state's not going to go out of business. There's great salaries, there's benefits packages. It's a very stable job. Working with CalPERS, they have a pension plan. So as you're getting your pay as well, you're putting into your tomorrow. There's savings plans that are available if that's something that you're interested in, to add more into your tomorrow. They have comprehensive health, dental, vision, a lot of paid holidays. The state of California has 11 paid holidays. In addition to that, you have 6 leave, vacation time, and they do a lot of paid training as well. If you have a service-related treatment, a service-related disability, the state will also grant you up to 96 hours of sick pay, sick leave, so that way you can get that looked at, and it's something that you might be eligible for. It just adds that extra carrot to working for the state. How do we get started working for the state? Jobs.ca.gov. This is the main website, or Cal Careers. Both of those will navigate you to the same website. And once you get there, you want to apply for that veterans preference, just like you would if you're applying for a federal job. And you're going to search for career opportunities. You'll take an exam or an assessment, and then you'll apply for open positions. So let's talk a little bit how that process works. Working for the state, as I said before, you can go to CalCareers, and that will enable you to create an account. And everyone here knows how to navigate the internet, but if you look in the upper right hand corner, it talks about create an account, log in. And from that screen, I want you to actually take a look down in the center. You notice how it talks about veterans. Even on the front page of the website, the state of California really honors, recognizes, and wants veterans to get that step forward in the application process. Once you start, you're going to build your account. Make sure that you're using a professional email address. You don't want to use I hate marshmallows 22. This is a job search, so you want to make sure you use a professional email address. It's going to give you an ID number, and you're going to fill in that contact information. With veterans preference for the state of California, what happens is veterans are automatically added to the top rank of civil service exams. So once you take an exam, if you pass it, it kicks you right to the top. You do have to fill out a form, and by navigating through the veterans aspect of the website, it'll enable you to fill out that form. This is what the form looks like, and it's just, again, it's a basic form that you're going to fill out, and they just want to verify your military experience. Make sure that once you fill this out and turn it in, you're going to actually physically check your account to make sure that it's listed on there and that you're getting that veteran's preference. It says it can only be used once on the side of the screen. That can be a little confusing. So just for clarity, when you first put your foot in the door and you're applying for jobs, if you're applying for multiple jobs, once you get your first job and you've used it to get a job, then you can't use it a second time. But if you put in for 10, 15, 20 jobs, you can use it for each of those. But once you're in and you have that employment and you've used it to get your employment with the state, you can't use it a second time. So if you leave the job and then come back 5 years later to work for the state again, to the best of my knowledge, you're not allowed to use that again. So how do we search for vacancies? What does it look like to look for a job with the state of California? In the upper side of the toolbar, you'll see where it says find jobs, and you'll just navigate through that. You'll look at the different listings that they have. You'll see what interests you. Here, you'll see with the filing deadlines, the different type of work. It lists the salary range, what's the location, what date was the job listing actually published, and then you'll navigate to where it says view job posting. When you click on view job posting, this is going to give you a lot of the information, and it will also give you what's known as a duty statement. And a duty statement basically is just a breakdown of what are the tasks directly related with this job. So it might say 50% of the job is holding an oar, 25% of the job is rowing, 10% of the job is making sure that you're rowing at the sound of the drum. It might be whatever the job entails. 5% of it might be reading books and navigating the seas. So there's a lot of different jobs that are out there. This just gives you a really good breakdown of what the job is going to be and what duties you're supposed to perform. On that same job posting page, you'll see where it says apply now. Once you read through the job description, you decide, hey, this is exactly what I want to do, and you've navigated through that checklist as well, you hit the apply now button, and from the apply now button, it's going to ask you about eligibility. So when they're talking about eligibility, they just want to make sure that you are eligible for the job. How do you achieve eligibility? Well, when you click on I want to obtain eligibility, they'll give you different opportunities to search and take different examinations. This part can be a little bit confusing to some people. There's different types of examinations. Just like there's different ranks in the military, there's different ranks in the state of California. So what you want to do is you want to make sure that you take the examination that's directly linked to that job profile. Once you take the examination and you pass it, then it's usually good for about 6 months to a year, depending on it, and it'll tell you how long that examination is good for. But once you pass that category, whether it be office assistant, office technician, program specialist, whatever it may be, then you're good to apply for positions in that role. Some jobs may have a specific exam specific to that job, and it will explain that when you want to have eligibility. So what does it mean to take an exam? It is a process to evaluate your education, your knowledge, your skills, your abilities. They're looking at your experience. Some of these examination methods are going to be um, a self-assessment. So it'll ask you on a scale of 1 to 5, what's your ability to do this? On a scale of 1 to 5, what's your ability to manage people? What's your ability to use Microsoft Word? Some of the examinations might be oral interviews where you're working with a panel. Remember that now some of these might be, because of COVID, some of them might be Zoom based or they might be over the internet. So you want to make sure that you're understand that if you're going to an interview, is it going to be in person or is it going to be online? If it's something that's going to be online, make sure you're checking your background, make sure all your equipment works, make sure that you're calling a friend and having them test all your video equipment before you go to that interview and for that examination, just the same way you would if you're doing a job interview. Different types of exams are based on your educational levels, and this just gives you a snapshot of some of the different educational levels that are out there. I don't want to confuse anybody, so I just want to make sure you understand that, as I said before, there are different ranks, just like in the military: office assistant, office technician. Some people are staff service analysts, and you would just take the exam to make sure that you pass the exam, and then you're eligible to apply for any position for those exams that you passed. Once you take the test, you'll get your exam results pretty quick. It'll tell you fairly quickly whether or not you passed. For the electronic ones, they'll tell you. And then you'll have that eligibility once you pass to apply for these different jobs. By clicking on apply for this job, it'll navigate you through the application process. Just like a master resume, the state of California does a lot of stuff digitally. Once you fill out your master resume, you'll do it once and then you'll upload it into the system. So you don't have to do it each and every time you're applying for a job. You just have to do it once. Now, if you're making target resumes for specific employment that you want for specific tasks within those job searches, then you may have more than one. And you're able to do that with the system allows you for that. What you're going to hear come up every now and then when you're applying for state jobs is what's known as a statement of qualifications. And a statement of qualifications is basically this narrative discussion, and it's just a method that hiring departments use to screen. They're going to ask you a couple of questions. Have you ever worked on a project with a team? What makes you believe that you're the best candidate for this job? They're really going to have some specific instructions. So it might say, make sure that you are submitting this in Arial at 11 font, or it might say in the upper right hand corner, make sure that you put your name. Those little things are really going to make or break your statement of qualifications, because they want to make sure that you're reading everything in the instructions and following those instructions completely. So take that extra moment and don't just answer the questions that they're asking, but really read what is it that they want you to do with that statement of qualifications. And usually they're like 1, 2, sometimes 3 or 4 questions. Preparing for a hiring interview, it is after COVID and things have changed. So make sure that you're studying that job announcement, the duty statement. I also recommend that you take a moment to go to the organization's website, look at their vision, look at their mission statement, look at what they're putting, look at the literature that they're putting out. So that way, when you go into that hiring interview, you have that information on you and you can give it to them. As I said before, make sure you're reading all those application instructions and relate your experience and knowledge to those essential duties, because they're going to have some desirable qualifications. Just like any interview, if they ask you, do you have any questions at the end? You should always say, yes, I have a question. How would you view me as successful 6 months after working this job? Those are the kind of things that you want to give them back. So that way they picture you in that employment. In summary, we want to make sure we make a master resume and a target resume. When we're talking about the state of California, we want to make sure that you're applying for those veteran preference points and take on the necessary exams, applying for those job vacancies, and really take that moment to prepare for your hiring interviews. Working with the state is an excellent experience, something I definitely recommend. And here are some resources for you to look at and navigate. And if you want to, my teammate's going to drop this list of resources into the chat as well. I want to thank everybody for giving me the time today to talk a little bit about state employment. And in our veteran resource book, there's a great section on employment as well. Take a few moments and review that chapter 6 and look at the different things that are out there. Next up is going to be Adrian, who's going to talk about the federal hiring process. Hello, Adrian. Thank you for joining us today.
Good morning. How are you?
I'm great. I really appreciate you being on with us today.
I appreciate it. Thank you so much. Again, thank you for inviting DOL vets to this webinar. It's always a pleasure to talk about how federal hiring process works with the Department of Labor, not just with the Department of Labor, but across all departments at the federal level. And so I believe I did send some slides over. I just want to introduce myself. I am with the U.S. Department of Labor Veterans Employment Training Services here in the state of California. And today I'm excited to provide some information about the federal hiring process. Please remember that this information is not all inclusive, because the federal hiring process is sort of like an onion with a bunch of layers. So it would take us longer than 20 minutes allotted here to get more in depth on this subject. But throughout this presentation, I'll give you some sites where you can obtain information on these subjects. Next slide, please. So today we're just going to talk about the understanding of the federal hiring process, navigating CalTAP.gov, searching for the right federal jobs, and networking. Next slide, please. For California Department of Labor vets, Audrey Bashaw is another assistant director here in California. She resides down in the Los Angeles area. I'm here in Sacramento, and I oversee the northern part of California. Next slide, please. Federal civil service. So there's 3 types of federal civil service. There's competitive, accepted, and senior executives civil service. We'll also talk on veterans preference, how that fits into all of this. But please understand that this is just the brushing of the surface on the wealth of information available about federal service, civil service types. As we near the end of the civil service slides, I'll provide some information on where you can find additional information on these subjects. Next slide, please. So the first of three types is competitive service. It encompasses most of the jobs in federal civil service. Individuals must go through a competitive process, i.e. competitive examining, just like the state, which is open to all eligible applicants who meet the minimum qualifications. This competitive process may consist of doing a written test or an evaluation of the applicant's education, experience, and an evaluation of other attributes necessary for successful performance of the positions to which they're applying for. Next slide. I'm not going to go too far in depth on accepted service. Again, it's it's got some different levels. You can see here Schedule A, B, and C. But for more information regarding accepted service, there is a link there at the bottom of this slide. So when you do get a copy of these slides, you can click on calvet.sa.gov. That will provide information about what accepted service is. Next slide, please. And with senior executives service as well, executive senior service has more stringent, I want to say, red lines of tape for those type of positions. But again, you can look for those type of positions within usajobs.gov. And these senior executive service positions are more like leadership type positions, or appointed by the President of the United States. Next slide, please. So in regards to veterans preference, veterans who are disabled or who served on active duty in the armed forces during specific time periods or in a military campaign are entitled to preference over others in hiring for competitive list of eligibles and in retention during reductions in force. Preferences in hiring applies to permanent and temporary positions in the competitive and accepted services of the executive branch. Veterans preference does not require an agency to use any particular appointment process, but there's more information on vets preference that can be found in Title V, as well on the Office of Personnel Management website, which is www.opm.gov. Next slide. So I'm just going to go over some tips and tricks for navigating usajobs.gov. Next slide, please. So usajobs.gov will be basically your number one tool when searching for federal jobs. First thing you want to do is build a profile. Next, you'll notice some hiring paths will populate based off the information that you provide when building your profile within usajobs.gov. You're going to select a hiring path, which could be open to the public, or it's for federal employees, competitive or accepted service. Military spouses, including internal to an agency as well. Sometimes you'll notice that there is an identical job hire under several paths, but apply for all of these that you're eligible for. It will increase your odds of moving forward in the hiring process. And you can see which groups you belong to listed under the section you belong to the following groups. If you think you believe you belong to more groups, you can reach out to usajobs.gov and they'll be able to provide technical assistance on getting you into the right group as well. You want to make your resume searchable. That's key. So there's a little box once you create your resume inside USA Jobs. You want to click searchable on any resume that you've created, and that adds your resume to a bank where agencies are searching to fill the positions that they have open. A foot stomp for this tip which will help increase your likelihood with federal employment. To do this, you just want to, again, go to your profile, select documents, click searchable. At this time, USA Jobs only allows one resume to be searchable at a time, but it can be renewed every 18 months by you. So just be mindful that there's an 18-month threshold window on a searchable resume. And also your profile is searchable too, but only if it's completed in whole. Save search and email notifications. Again, you must have a profile that's got to be completed to use the save search notification. Best searches have both keywords and locations entered in the search area. When you do enter search details, you want to narrow your results and then save that. You can also name it as well based on the search you're looking for. So, and then how often you want to get notified about that specific search. So, i.e., if you wanted to find specific jobs in Los Angeles, you just type in your keyword Los Angeles and then down to the mileage or the general schedule level of the position, and then hit it as, type in Los Angeles as a title to save that job search. So let me see, if you sign up to receive these daily, you'll get alerts in your email per day if new jobs posted in the last 24 hours that match your search criteria. And then you want to, of course, ensure that you keep that updated as well. Next slide, please. So searching for federal jobs. So let's talk about just a couple of key points when conducting a federal job search. You want to keep in mind the type of hiring paths of any position you're seeking. There are a variety of them out there, including permanent and internships, students, / recent grads, spouses, etc., and the list goes on and on. You don't want to apply for a recent grad hiring path if you're not in fact a recent grad. Even if you otherwise meet the qualifications for this position, this will automatically send your packet through the USA Jobs virtual shredder. Only apply for jobs that you are truly qualified for. For instance, if I have a master's in HR and a good amount of training experience, it would be reasonable for me to apply for any training or HR jobs that match my skills and education set. It would not be effective to apply for a job as a physical scientist. So while I'm sure that would be a cool job to apply for, that would also immediately get my application sent right through the virtual USA Job Shredder. Also keep in mind the government values experience over education. I can't tell you how many times I've been passed over positions that I've been could have qualified for based on education. I have, but am passed over on positions of 5 to 7 years of experience. However, I was hired into my position with no real experience with the day-to-day of what we do in vets, but meet the education requirements. I say don't get discouraged. Keep applying. Sooner than later, you'll strike gold when the right person sees the type of value you are and would love to see you inside their organization. Next slide, please. Last but certainly not least, let's talk about networking and how that can assist you in federal employment. Next slide. Oh, yeah. So I can't stress enough. Sometimes it's really all about who you know. And so key is network, network, network. I can provide an example that two of my colleagues being hired without competition, but without using their names as reference, they were hired, based on who they knew. The stronger the network, the more opportunities you'll hear about having that much closer access to a position. There's many ways to seek out and build these networks. That's including attending job fairs, conferences, symposiums, any other related events that are targeted towards your area and field of interest. Don't just ask for business cards from agency reps at these events, but also ensure you follow up with anyone you receive a business card from on similar basis to see if there is any area in which agency can provide support to theirs, basically. This will help build that business relationship, which could lead to future opportunities. It's also okay to let them know that you would be interested in any future opportunities that become available, but you don't want to be too pushy. So just let them know and then press on. Next slide. So again, here's the state of California, U.S. Department of Labor Veterans point of contacts. Steve Potter, who's the director here in California, Audrey Bashaw, who's my counterpart, and myself here in Sacramento. And that's our emails and point of contact numbers. Next slide. Does anybody have any questions? If you do, also please visit usajobs.gov, opm.gov, and of course, gov.info.gov for more information about the hiring, federal hiring process. Next slide. Oh, thank you.
Thank you very much, Adrian. That's a lot of great information about what it really takes to walk through and navigate how to get those federal jobs. And I want to make sure to give my teammate Michael the opportunity to answer some questions that came through. Hi, Michael. How are you doing today?
Hey, how's it going, Sean? So it looks like we do have a question. This question is more about the guest's experience, and I'm guessing maybe they just want a little bit of advice on how they should go about their situation. So basically, this individual has a doctorate's degree, has been looking for work for over a year now, and is over the age of 50, and feels as if they are not being able to find work because of that reason, and want to know, or I guess they want to know if there's any advice you can give them on how to find work in that situation. Yeah, it looks like it's more of a question that they might want to get with a maybe like a caseworker. Not sure if that's something that they could get through the Department of Labor, but with CalVet, we would probably have you go to Work for Warriors. However, I do see that you have worked with Work for Warriors, and at least you mentioned that you've worked with them in the past.
Well, Michael, maybe I can weigh in on this a little bit. So
Please.
as for myself, I have a master's degree in adult education. I used to own my own business. I legally, I still own it. And I'm a 48-year-old man. I was set in my ways, and I believe that I wanted to do things my way. It took me the better part of 9 months before I found the job that I'm working in now, a job that I wanted, that I'm happy, that I have a far amount less stress in. And I really had to re-navigate what I was looking for and re-navigate how I thought they were listening to my questions. As someone who's ran a business that I'd like to say was successful for a long time and still is successful, I know how to do it. I went from making $0 to I believe the last thing was like 200,000 in 1 year. So I know how to do it. But I'm not answering the questions that employers are asking me. I'm answering the questions that I want to answer. And I really had to re-navigate how I think. And what helped me a lot was using the STAR method, where you take the situation, they're going to ask you questions and you take that situation. So the question might be, what did you do to change your organization? So you take the situation, you really write down the task, the STAR, you write down the task that they want, the task that I did, the actions that were done, and then what were the results. And when I really stopped trying to answer the question the way I wanted to answer it, and I really started using the STAR method, I started getting better traction in the interviews that I was having. I heard Michael say that you're working with Work for Warriors. That's a great organization. They're going to help you network out with a lot of people. It is going to be a little different because the way that we look for jobs has changed a lot. When I was a kid, I walked into a place, I filled out their application, I turned it in, they loved me. nowadays you really need to make sure that the terminology that you're using when you're filling out a resume, the terminology that you're using when you're filling out that job application matches almost word for word with what they are asking for. A lot of times organizations are using algorithm programs, and those algorithm programs are looking for the specific wording. And if you're not using their specific wording, the algorithm programs might not pick up on it. The other thing that I would really recommend is if it's a larger organization, go to their HR department website and look at the different tools, tips, and tricks that they have. For example, for the state of California, for our HR department, you can go there and online, you can look at different videos on how to do SOQs, statements of qualification. You look for the videos on what does it mean to be employed by the state and how to do it. Take that moment to use the tools that other people have created already and try to navigate through whatever process, whatever organization that you're going for. Someone else has already done it. If you have a doctorate, then you've taken all these steps to get as far as you have. So you have a lot of skills and experience. You want to make sure that they match up word for word to the application that you're putting in. What are your thoughts on that, Michael?
No, I think that sounds great. The STAR method is a perfect method to use to kind of evaluate your progress or your experiences, and kind of hone in on one specific thing that you can use to help kind of sell yourself, and definitely following through with making sure you're using the right terminology with the employer. But no, yeah, that's great information, Sean.
Yeah, and if you feel frustrated, don't feel alone. I like to think of myself as a smart guy, and it took me 8 or 9 months to get this job. So it's going to take time, especially after all the changes from COVID. So it's okay to feel a little frustration. Just stay motivated and network with people. Like Adrian was saying, Adrian brought up a lot of good points too. Making sure that you're networking with people and using those options and tools that are out there. What other questions did we have, Michael?
The other question we have is, can you retake the state online exams? And will the slides be available after the meeting? I have put a PDF copy of the slides into the chat, so you can definitely download that for yourself and have those resources on your computer or on your phone if needed. As for taking the exams, you can retake the exams if you failed them. I believe it's a year. You have to wait a year, or is it 6 months, Sean? Do you know?
It's specific for the exam. So when you're taking the exam, you want to go and look at the bottom, and it'll tell you whether it's good for 6 months or a year, or how long you have to wait to retake it. It's specific for each exam. So
right. I believe for the most part, it's going to be a year that you would have to wait to retake the exams. But yes, you can take them as many times as you need to, as long as you're waiting for that period to end. And so let's see. So it looks like for the individual who has that question that we were just attempting to answer, feel free to reach out to anyone on the page right now with your situation, and we could look into more resources. We could possibly get into a deeper conversation about how to help you out and what to do. So yeah, feel free to reach out to any one of those individuals, and we can see what we could do. But with that, I don't have any more questions. If you do have any questions, please feel free to reach out, and we can direct you to somebody who can answer those questions.
Thank you so much, Michael, and thank you for joining us today. I'd like to thank everybody else as well for joining us for this event. And if you could take a moment to look at our survey and access the QR code, I would really appreciate it. Help us to build the types of webinars that you'd like to see. And upcoming, we have a few different webinars on maximizing your educational benefits on the 6th and 7th. And then we've got a great one that really breaks down into detail the PACT Act, this expansions on burn pits, talks to exposure presumptions, and really just to maximize your knowledge in those areas. I'd like to bring back up the contact page again. And as my teammate said, he's going to put all this information into the chat. I'd like to take another moment to thank Ben and Mr. Rodriguez, and of course, Adrian, for joining us today. I see that we got about 10 minutes left, so I want to make sure that I'm respectful of everybody's time. I want to leave the contact information up for another minute or two and give another opportunity for any other additional questions, or if any of the presenters wanted to add any information. But if not, we're going to give people 8 minutes back today and end it at a 52. So 8 minutes. So were there any other questions that came up, Michael?
No, I'm not finding any other questions right now.
Thank you. Then I'll leave up the contact information for a couple more minutes, and then we'll end the webinar. And again, I want to thank everybody for their service, and thank you for joining us today. And a really special shout out to Chaffey College for having us and empowering us to give this information to you. So thank you again, Mr. Rodriguez.
Thank you all for joining us, and we look forward to collaborating with you all in the future on different topics.